Welcome back to another Real Estate Talk podcast. Rob Keilman.
Joshua Britt.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a special guest on today. We have a special guest on today.
Yep.
We have Mr. Jose Berlanga. He is an entrepreneur, author, and developer. He's author of the book, The Business of Home Building, available on Amazon.com. He owns residential construction businesses, and in his book, he talks about setting up a company, building a team, locating deals, budgeting, and obtaining financing. Jose, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Robert and Josh, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Fantastic. Mr. Berlanga, so let me ask you a question. How did you get into new construction and developing and whatnot?
I got into this business. You could say it was by accident. I didn't. There's two parts to it. In one hand, I always intended to be in this business because my younger brother is an architect. And since he was a little kid, all he wanted to do was build homes. That's the only thing that's ever been his passion, his purpose. And on the contrary, I have no purpose. I'm one of those people, entrepreneurs that still does not know what he wants to do with his life. At my age, I'm still reinventing myself. And my passion is to start businesses, building businesses, startups, not in any given particular industry. I just love and enjoy entrepreneurship in general. But so we always had the intentions of working together and starting a construction company at some point. That was no accident. What was an accident is that at no point was the plan for me to operate the company, to run it. I planned to partner with him, invest in him, guide him, mentor him because he is younger. And somewhat help them put the company together and just be sort of participate in a very, very light manner. But little by little, as we began to learn the business, the industry, and as I gradually started investing a little more money, a little more time, a little more of this, we started growing. Before you know it, I was full time. We realized that one of the things that I talk about in this book is how underestimated and appreciated this industry is. Everybody thinks they can do it. It appears easier than it is to build homes, to develop land, to flip properties. We see all the shows and magazines and, even TV channels, networks where they make it like it's as easy as baking a cake.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's an extremely difficult business, particularly once you incorporate the concept of budgets and time. Anybody can do this if you have unlimited resources and unlimited time. But once you throw in those two components, it becomes much harder than what people think. There's a lot of regulations, guidelines, procedures. You have to really manage so many ingredients that must come together in order for things to go right. So at some point we started learning that it wasn't as easy as everybody made it seem, and it began to require my full attention and then some. So before you know it, we're both full time. We're running the company. We're distributing the responsibilities, the obligations, and we began to grow. So it became my career. I never intended. Part of the process of me writing this book, which was cathartic, and it was a way for me to unload 25 years of headaches, stress, processes, learning experiences, because I never intended to remain in this business for that long. I thought I was on from the sidelines, perhaps jump in for a year or so to put systems in place and procedures and whatnot. But it started swallowing me and pulling me in. And this is an industry where the cycles are very long, as you guys know it. It's not in and out, buying something, reselling it. No, you have to acquire, tie up a piece of property, and it might be a couple of years before the
Mm.
cycle is completed. Uh, and then before you know it, you start getting into another one before you finish the first development, adding stuff to your portfolio. And then there's the new ingredient, which is you may, God forbid, start making some money. It makes it hard for you to want to walk away from it.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, if you have the bad years, they come with a lot of problems. They come with a lot of issues that prevent you and prohibit you from getting out of this business. So it's a very difficult business to unwind and walk away from. It sort of starts bringing you into these cycles, these long cycles where you're either doing very well, making a lot of money, and you're not willing to walk away, or very poorly, where you're drowning in headaches and there's no way to walk away from these headaches. So before you know it, 25 years went by. I had already been an entrepreneur for about 10 years prior to that in a number of other industries. But I ended up in this one for this long. And now I'm still in it, building, developing. I'm doing a number of other things as well, but this has predominantly been my activity. um, and I can go on and on and on with a story, but in general terms, that's how we began. My brother and I, him as an architect, me as a business side. Um, just to wrap up the this book, the essence of the book is due to the fact that I never got truly involved in the construction side of things because my brother was there and I wasn't really attracted to it. It was not fun for me technically to be building homes, the ins and outs. Although I understand it very well being so long in it, it was not my forte. It was not something that I enjoyed. I always remain on the business side of things, the accounting, the financing, the administrating, the hiring, the numbers, dealing with banks, dealing with vendors, the everything that's perhaps eventually boring to all of us, the behind the scenes that nobody wants to deal with. And it occurred to me that um, there's very little material out there that help people. You see most people that fail in these businesses because they romanticize the industry
Mhm.
and they don't realize there's a lot of ugly, boring stuff going on behind the scenes in order to become successful. And that's what this book is about: how to organize your thoughts, first of all, before you enter this industry, how to consider things that, although obvious and simple and self explanatory, we neglect to think about. From understanding your market, your pricing, what selecting a neighborhood, why choosing a price point versus another one, or a design, what's your mission, what are the differences between your business and the rest, what are you going to bring into the industry that differentiates you from the rest, your mission, your vision, your procedure, so on and so forth, your corporate identity. So I talk about things that perhaps might sound simple, but most people forget to organize their thoughts and to organize these subjects and actually implement them. And it costs, for example, accounting and systems, a basic software. A lot of builders fail because they jump in and later they realize that they don't know what is going on with their numbers, with their costs, percentages, what project is making money, which one is. It's so easy to lose track once money starts coming in and out. uh, if you don't do this ahead of time and plan for it, before you know it, you lose track of where your money is. You may be profitable, but you are cash poor because you don't know where the money is. Or vice versa. You may have cash because you're racing it left and right, and maybe you're not profitable. So mixing those two, and so there's so much to it that I thought it would be fun to put it together. And one last thing is that this book is not just for, although it sounds very specific, it was intended to be a very specific subject, but the book can really work for any industry. It applies to any entrepreneur who wants to start a company, build a brand, because the steps are somewhat generic, somewhat similar from one industry to another. So it applies to pretty much anyone who wishes to enter the world of business and entrepreneurship.
You know what? That you covered a lot of things right there. So Josh and I are investors as well. So you got different types of investment strategies. If you're getting into real estate, of course, there's sales. That's not really an investment, but if you're an agent, you sell houses, whatever. But then you buy and hold for rentals, buy and sell for flips. You got your new constructions. You got your wholesaling. Pick your poison on how you want to be a real estate investor. Now, Josh is a more experienced investor than I am. He does buy and hold and buy and flip. He doesn't do new constructions yet. That's something that we both have been romanticizing about. Personally, I'm his apprentice, so I've been doing flips with him. And there's something that I had learned along the way that I had no idea. Of course, because you talked about how investing is romanticized on TV and whatnot, where they say, we bought this house for this, we put this much money in, we made 100 grand off the house. Not a bad day today, So
Yeah.
it's a little bit romanticized, but what I had learned in this business, and I don't know if you cover about this, and you touched on some things that I had learned along the way, and that one of the things is your costs. Now, let's say if you acquisition a property using other people's money or borrowed money, you have your closing costs, you have your down payment, and then you have your interest-only payments every month if you're not using straight cash. So every day, there's a cost per day of what it is. Take what your total expenses of your carrying cost plus your interest only and divide it by 30. That's your cost per day for every day that house doesn't sell.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know if people sometimes will think of it that way, but when you're saying, oh my God, this is costing me $120 per day, you look at your workers and say, what's done? When is this going to be done? What do you need? Why is this not done yet? So you essentially become a project manager. Now you're managing time, you're managing a budget, and you have goals that you're setting forth that you need to complete by a certain date. So they keep yourself from start to finish. And there's always things that come up that you didn't plan for. The question is how will you react during that time? Because you're no longer being proactive during that time when something comes up. You're being reactive. So are you going to fall apart? Are you going to be clear-headed and whatnot? So I've noticed mistakes I made along the way. What would you say is the most common mistake a lot of people make when they get into new constructions, like new construction virgin investors? What is usually the most common mistake that they make?
Wow, you covered a lot of very, very interesting points. Let's start with one of the most common mistakes, but there's lots of them, and I made just about all of them. Number one, we tend to think that we are going to do a lot better than we end up doing. We end up coming into this business extremely optimistic. We think we're going to negotiate better prices, knock everybody down with a price, build it faster, better quality, better design, and sell it for more. And
Mhm.
it rarely happens. And so we do our numbers in a very optimistic way. So, mistake number one, we're not cautious, we're not conservative enough with numbers because we think that we're going to come in and kick ass and show everybody how to do this business, and it doesn't. You talked about these shows where they claim, oh, I made 100 grand in this in one day. No, no, it's that is unrealistic. There's 10,000 headaches to go through before you, just on a flip.
Mhm.
Forget a new construction, forget developing land, which is a whole nother game. These are longer cycles with a lot of variables, with a lot of surprises. Uh, Understanding next mistake is really understanding the true cycle, the time, understanding that delays accumulate. I never think of a delay as a single event. I think of them as accumulation of small items that before you know it, it's an incredible amount of time that added up to months worth of delays. And a lot of people don't estimate for those. Coordinating everyone is a science. Getting contractors, if one falls behind, now the next one falls behind, and maybe they're not available anymore. So now you have to reconstruct your system and your process and regroup. Before you know it, things starts piling up and they start messing up your entire program. Um, so that is one. The other one is perhaps a bigger one. You mentioned being pragmatic, removing the emotion from this business is very difficult because, uh, for starters, in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to be kind of where you're working for a promise. You're investing time, money, effort, your credit guarantees, even borrowing, getting in debt to see if you get it back and then some. That's the plan, but it doesn't always happen. Oh, and meanwhile, you're not getting paid a dime. So
Hmm.
you're going to work every day with a promise of a potential profit. When you come, and here's the point, when you finish your product and it's ready to be sold, and you start facing the reality that it's not selling for what you anticipated and you're not making the profit that you thought, you go into what I call the denial phase.
Hmm.
And you start stubborn and you neglect to accept the reality that your product is what it is and the market is bigger than all of us. We don't name the price of our product. The product prices itself. We don't price homes, we don't price real estate. The market does that for us.
Hmm.
And if we attempt to force it, we waste time. We waste time and accumulate carrying cost. Statistically, when you finish a product, number one, it becomes a hot potato. Now it's costing you. Now it's not an asset. Now it's a liability once a product is completed.
Hmm.
But beyond that point, like you said, every day starts accumulating a cost. So that means that whatever I need to sell that house or that building or that asset today at a certain price, in a month from today, I will need to sell it for a little bit more to recover that month's worth of cost. And statistically, I have less chances of selling it for more money next month than whatever it is that the market is offering me today. Every month that I wait, statistically, I build up a time bomb of potential losses. And nobody is willing to accept what the product is worth and moving on and selling it, taking a loss or taking a lower profit, and perhaps just making it up on the next one, learning from your mistakes, learning what you did right and wrong. This is what we did in our earlier years. We didn't make money, but we didn't get stubborn, and it allowed us to grow, to tweak our numbers. Uh, here's another. I can go through mistakes perhaps by the dozens because I mean there's so many, but another one is trying to chase the market.
Hmm.
Oh, the 400,000 market is doing great. Let's build there. You build a few homes. By the time you're done 2 years later, the 900,000 market is doing so very well. So you move to that one, and then you move to the multi-million dollar, and then you go back. But the market changes overnight, and you cannot chase it because that doesn't give you the opportunity to do that. It's too capital intensive. It takes too much time. So my recommendation is specialize. What it is that you do? Why do you like this business? Do you like it because you want the volume? You want to build more homes more efficiently with less luxury, perhaps, than a multi-million dollar? Or do you like the design factor? Do you like the wow factor? Uh, do you want to build one at a time because decor and design is what you love? So understand what it is that you like about this business to have a little bit better probabilities to succeed and stick to it. Stick to it. That cycle of pricing, designs, neighborhoods will come back to you sooner or later, but it's impossible to chase it. So um, you nailed it. I mean, in a company, the more you grow, when you start adding up what it costs you to operate it is ridiculous. I remember during the financial crisis, the housing bubble. It cost us just in overhead $18,000 a day,
Hmm.
plus carrying costs. I
Wow.
mean, I think we needed over $1 million a month just to cover our company's needs. And our income went practically to zero. But just in overhead, we had about 18 plus $1,000 per day to cover. So even Sundays, rainy days, holidays, I would be depressed. I was just thinking that I grab $18,000, throw them in the trash can that day because no progress was made. And the more you grow, the more you need to start accounting for what it costs you to run your business. Another mistake we make is that we only assume, let's forget the fact that sometimes numbers are not as accurate as we intended them to be on a budget, but we also forget that there's other fixed expenses, which is my time, my staff, everything else, my office, my phones. How many homes or how much do I need to sell in order to cover those expenses? And how many months is it going to take me to produce um, this home or this product in order to cover those expenses? So sometimes you may spend a year building a house, and by the time it's all said and done and you sell it, you ended up spending more in your personal expenses than the profit. So it's a wash. You
Hmm.
think you make money, but in reality, the collateral expenses were much higher than what you ended up making out of one property. So it goes on and on, but not knowing, not understanding the business, not giving it enough time, also assuming that you're going to make money on every deal is a mistake.
Hmm.
It's a number like everything else, and you have to know that out of X number of deals, some even today, after I've been in this for decades and done a few thousand projects. I'm currently dealing with a few losers. So it doesn't matter how experienced. Sometimes, again, you don't control the market, you don't control fluctuations or events that are outside of your control. And you just have to know that this is a numbers game, and you're going to try to improve your averages as much as possible, but it's not possible to hit a home run every single time.
That's interesting. You say that. Yeah, it's not like you're going to hit a home run on every single deal you do. It's funny because Josh, again, Josh, I'm more or less his apprentice at this point, and he was talking. We were talking together, and you were saying at some point you're going to take a loss because I haven't taken a loss yet. So I'm like, no, I don't
Well,
want to take a loss.
rare.
he's, like, he's like, oh yeah, you're going to take a loss. But
Sooner or later.
now my anxiety is like through the roof now. I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to take a loss. Oh, I shouldn't have cursed, but I'll edit that out later. Um, I don't want to take a loss. Now I'm like really scared now. Like, what's going on over there? What has anything been done today? What's going on? Why isn't this done? Who should we hire?
Yeah.
You start worrying about the potential of loss. And again, Josh has been doing this a lot longer than me. I remember you had a project over there in a $1 million neighborhood where you basically took down a property down to its foundation. Did you remove the foundation too on that one?
Yeah, we had to. It was basically the foundation on it. When we got it down, it couldn't be reused. We were planning to reuse it, so ended up having to do new construction on it. But I think the sooner that everyone who gets into this business realizes at some point you're going to take a loss, the better off you will be, because it's just, the laws of probability say that eventually, if you win for so long, eventually you're going to lose. So,
Yeah. You have to be ready mentally for it and know that it's coming sooner or later. But Robert, thank God you have Josh, because there is something to be said about experience,
Mm-hmm.
which reduces your probability of losing money. Number one, but it also reduces the amount of money that you will lose in a difficult situation. There's a lot said about that. It is very, I see this industry very much as although it is a game of chance, it's also a game sort of like poker, where a good poker player has better probabilities of winning, and When you lose, you know how to handle things and how to maneuver and reduce those losses.
Mhm.
So experience is incredibly important. And I see people with no experience making money because they got lucky. The cycle happened to go in the right direction at the precise time that they were developing, and it you have an opportunity to hide all those mistakes and not even notice them. But when things get very tough, there's very little margin of error, and that's when experience comes in. And it takes years, you hear this, oh my God, you hit a home, you became an overnight sensation. But the way I look at it is, it takes at least 10 years or so to become an overnight success. It doesn't really happen right away. And if you're willing to wait, and if you're willing to stomach some of these deals where, again, hopefully it wasn't a big loss, but it wasn't a big winner, and you just stick to it, you start improving your chances little by little.
So, since we're talking about loss, um, in your experience, what is the absolute worst deal that you have ever done that you, even to this day, when you think back about it, just kind of disgusts you? Do you have any of those deals in mind?
Yes, there's two. I'll mention two. One is an individual one where I made the mistake of buying developed lots. Okay, because I am a builder, but I'm also a land developer where we buy raw land, convert it into individual shovel ready lots, what we call them, and sell them to our own company and even to other builders at time, and then our construction company builds the homes. But I've made a very big mistake. Perhaps one of my bigger ones was, although I make many, by the way,
Hmm.
buying too much in the wrong market was one. I'll get to that one. But buying developed lots where the developer went out of business, and I ended up with a portion of an abandoned development. I bought a number of lots in a development where nobody else was building, weeds growing. It looked very abandoned. A couple of other builders started framing some houses and then abandoned them. Look horrible. A lot of liens were placed on the property by the previous developer, and I ended up in a nightmare that cost my company millions of dollars.
Mm.
Uh, that was a humongous loss. We were doing well at the time. We were able to stomach that loss, but soon after this was during the financial crisis, so we had the means, but that helped put us in a very vulnerable, very difficult position. So that was one big one. Buying developed lots from someone who actually had not finished the development, and we got ahead. We were trusting them enough where we paid for them, assuming that the development would be fully finished by the time we completed our homes. We made some rookie mistakes and some rushed mistakes because there was a shortage of land. So we had accepted things that we knew we shouldn't have, but hey, there was a desperate need. Everybody was hungry for lots at the time, and we bought these properties. So that was a um, tremendous error because it wasn't one single property. It was a lot of them. It was a number of properties that we bought. Now I'm going to add that the the biggest mistakes sometimes are not isolated, they're an accumulation of a lot of small ones throughout the years. Uh, Perhaps growing at the wrong time, not being able to forecast a market, getting too aggressive without being cautious. So they're not specifically tied to one development or one acquisition. They're tied to more your vision and your company philosophy. Growing too fast was a mistake. um, Having a little too much debt at the wrong time was a fatal mistake. Reinvesting too much into the company too fast instead of balancing how the market was um, presenting itself. Sometimes we get too excited about what we see down the road, and start pacing ourselves at a rate that is perhaps not cautious or not recommended. So I think those are some of them. They can be categorized as actual physical errors of acquisitions, and then accumulated errors of just making bad philosophical decisions of where the company's headed. So yeah, we should have noticed. I think now part of the things that I spend a lot of my time is trying to envision, trying to understand how the market is doing, where it's going, and listening to the signs, because they're out there. We know when things are softening, when the inventories are increasing, when employment, which is a number one driver for all this industry, is starting to change, interest rates, this and that. But we just ignore all those signs. We feel that this is our turn, this is our time to build a company and build a business, and we start ignoring and not paying attention to what's really happening. And before you know it, as I call it, the music stops, and you end up without a chair, and you end up owing a lot of people to a lot of banks, and having a lot of work in progress on the ground with a very bad market. So with no buyers. And I'm going to say one more: be very careful. I always recommend be very careful leveraging land, because when a market turns, you can always fire sell a house. There are always investors ready to come out when things get tough to buy houses at a discounted price, taking it off your hands and renting them. But land in developments, the pool of buyers is much dramatically smaller. The pool of buyers for land are other developers and other builders. And when things slow down, they're dealing with problems. They're not thinking about buying new land. So leverage is one of the things that everyone needs to pay attention. It can help you grow. It's a wonderful thing to borrow money and get in debt when the economy is doing great. But when it turns, it's dead weight. It starts carrying it. It starts. One last one is, and I can go on. Sorry, I know
No, no, that's good.
more examples, because Josh, you guys mentioned a property that you took down to the foundation. I don't mind flipping properties cosmetically, going in and little makeup, repaint, change some countertops, minor. But when you start gutting a house, I call it, it's not a renovation, it's a restoration. Once you start doing that, I recommend not to do it unless you're an expert. Never begin by restoring a house. It may end up costing, and it often does end up costing more than building a brand new from the ground up, because the number of surprises that come up when you start restoring a house are nightmares. Only justifiable when the architectural value of a property is incredibly important. Otherwise, doesn't make sense. Do the cosmetic work. Do not start digging into walls, because you're gonna be incredibly surprised as to how rapidly your cost can escalate.
Yeah, some things about the house you just don't want to know.
Yeah. So so we've been talking about all the scary stuff. So I will ask you the same question I've asked some of our other guests here recently, and that is, real estate investing is scary and intimidating for a lot of people. So what advice would you give to somebody who may be sitting at home listening to this or watching this online, and they're on the fence about starting in real estate investing? What advice would you give them?
I'll start with the number one. Do not get in it just for the money. If you're looking for a quick way to make a dollar, think about it twice. Maybe partner with someone who knows what they're doing. Uh, but don't think that you're just going to go in and make a bunch of money. Get in it because you love it, you like it. There are many other things that attract you to it, because that will minimize the pain when things go bad. And that will minimize the losses and everything else. So get in it for more reasons than just the money. Next one is, if you know nothing about it, if you're scared about the industry, if you're concerned about the business, it's probably because you know very little about it. So my next recommendation is, try to learn it on somebody else's nickel. Work for a builder, work for a developer, work for a flipper. Get in there and at least start learning some of it. And once you get comfortable with it, which is still risky, but at least you have some know-how, then go on your own. Don't just go in assuming that you know everything without having learned some of the fundamentals. So learn as much as acquire some experience. Even as a realtor, go in and start seeing what developers are doing, and so formulate your plan before you jump in. Next one is, start small. Don't go in thinking I am a big time investor developer. Let me raise a bunch of money and start with a multi-million dollar project. Start with one little one and build your way up. That is something that I always recommend for the newcomers. Don't get too aggressive with the investment, particularly if the money is not yours. Don't fool around with other people's money. This is not a game, and this is not something that can be taken very lightly. Uh, so take baby steps. Start small. Last one is, focus and specialize. Don't be all things to all people. Don't jump from one type of product to another. Oh, I can build warehouses. I can build multifamily. I'm going to do a mid-rise. I'm going to do single family. I'm going to do entry level homes. Now I'm going to go into a suburban type of, and then multi-million. They're all extremely different contractors, designs, budgets, numbers, procedures. Everything about it is different. It's almost like being an attorney or a doctor. There's a cardiologist, there's a neurologist, there's a surgeon, there's a what do you want in the business? Identify that before you jump in. So those are some of the, I would say, some of the basic ones.
So Jose, you got a pretty extensive resume here, and what are some, what's next for you? What are some new exciting projects that you're working on?
I love this field, and again, although I have more of a passion for entrepreneurship, real estate has become my number one game. I've managed now, after so many years, to diversify. So I love that now, instead of being so much a hands-on builder developer, I'm starting to have more of an investor side of things, where I have trusted developers, where I can put some of my money to work. That is more of what I'm doing, diversifying a little bit into different areas of real estate that I now understand very well, and I can help, um, and perhaps consult within my own investments in the groups where I'm investing. But I see that there is so much future. This industry never stops reinventing itself, in innovating in so many different ways. There are now new and fun possibilities for investors. We were talking a little bit about fractionalized investments, even tokenizing some of these properties. I'm doing a lot of new developments which are built to rent. That's a new trend. Before, we wouldn't even think about retaining some of our inventory. Our game was build it, sell it, move on, make money, lose money, whatever it is, but we have to get rid of it. Now we're creating systems where we can keep some of our inventory, because we're noticing that there's a percentage of the population that loves living in a house, but they cannot afford, or they don't want to buy a house right now for whatever circumstances. Trends have changed. So this build to rent, a lot of builders are developing properties with the intention of not selling them, leasing them, stabilizing them, converting them into a permanent financing program and entering the rental business. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're combining now being a short-term player with a long-term investor in the rental game, and those are merging very rapidly. And there's going to be opportunities for people to invest in those type of deals uh, very soon with all of this cryptocurrencies, um, in ways, new and modern ways of buying shares of some of these investments. So we're trying to innovate, trying to understand as well, because I admit I keep saying that we're always going to continue. We never know everything in this business, and the moment we think we do, that's a bad day. We need to understand that there's always more to learn, and there's always more to innovate, and that this is a moving target. Buyers want different things all the time, investors want different things. But on a positive note, it's a great industry. We all need a home, we all need an office, we all need a retail. It continues to go, and the more you learn it and the more you understand it, the better you will do.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it. I think we
awesome.
covered a lot there.
Well, that's about all the questions I have today, Jose, and Josh as well. Is there anything you would like to add?
Well, just the fact that don't you mentioned that this is a very scary business, but it is also an incredibly wonderful way to work, to learn about entrepreneurship, because it has all the different elements of a business. You deal with marketing, with sales, with the technical, with engineering, city officials. You do paperwork. You have to learn a little bit about accounting. You have to learn all of the aspects. You can become a very well rounded business person in this industry, in real estate, and know that it is a good idea to at least know a little bit about it and learn the basics, because sooner or later we are all in the real estate game, whether it's by buying a home or buying a property or investing in a property, becoming a tenant, even by needing some space for one reason or another. Sooner or later we are all in the real estate business. So try to learn a little bit about it, and you might find it interesting. So no, this has been great. This is something that I can spend a lot of time talking about, and hopefully I'm enjoying writing books. I completed my second book right now, which is about land uh, investing, land development, and land speculating. So I plan to continue writing as it's becoming one of my hobbies.
Awesome. Well, that's it for us, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Jose's book, The Business of Home Building, available on Amazon.com. If you like this video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below. Let us know about your favorite aspiration or investments that you have done in the past. With that, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you soon.